business efficiency. So the first one that we did as a supply side approach in promoting economic growth and development was the efficiency and effectiveness of markets. So we looked at efficiency, we looked at effectiveness, then we looked at the triple BEE, and then you looked at your condition act in the work, and then now we're moving to business efficiency, right? So this is the second part. So the first one is your efficiency and effectiveness of markets. Now we're moving to business efficiency. Some measures serve as an incentive to increase efficiency, while others assist in establishing and improving efficiency, and the end result is greater profitability for the business. So when a business is efficient, then it means that there will be greater profit for the business. So some measures will act as an incentive. Some will be there to assist in improving the efficiency in the business. So an incentive, for example, incentive can be research done on behalf of a business. It's an incentive. Remember, grade 12, we have subsidies where government gives a business a certain amount to say, okay, to reduce your cost of production, here is subsidy. Subsidy can be direct, can be indirect, right? And then you have incentives. So incentives as well is something that can encourage a business to produce more. They can do research on the behalf of a business. Remember, for you to research the market, it's expensive. So if the government brings the information to you to say, okay, on the export market, if you want to export to Botswana, this is the packaging that they prefer, this is the demand that they want, then it's easy that you are producing. So it becomes an incentive to you. When the government say, okay, they're not taxing you for that time, they're giving you a relief, tax relief. They say to you, okay, you don't have to pay tax for this certain time. Then it's an incentive to a business to produce more. So some measures serve as an incentive. What is given to the business to increase efficiency, it can be certain incentives to them. Training the staff for them to be more productive. It's an incentive because the same people will be working for you. They are now more skilled. They are now more productive, meaning they are using less resources to produce more goods and services, right? That will result in more profit for a business, right? So tax can be disincentive to a business. Tax can be a disincentive when the tax is high. So the high tax, it may be discouraging for a business if they have to pay high tax. Even for consumers, workers, if tax increases, it means your disposable income decreases. So it's a disincentive. A disincentive is now the opposite of incentive. Disincentive, it means it discourages you as a business to be efficient, taxation, if it's too high. But if the taxation decreases, now it becomes what? An incentive to the business. Let's just go back a bit. Remember the Laffer curve, right? The Laffer curve, it was the relationship between the tax rate and what? And your tax revenue. If the tax rate was increasing more and more and more, then you found a situation where businesses and individuals will do what? Will avoid, there will be tax avoidance, for example, avoid paying tax. Why? Because a tax at that time was what? A disincentive. But when tax is low, you find that more people are encouraged to work and start businesses because they do not have to pay much to the government. So some measures act as an incentive. When tax is being reduced, it becomes an incentive that will do what? Will encourage more supply. The corporate income tax is 28%. Small businesses pay a lower rate as long as their income is less than the SARS income tax threshold. So these small businesses, them paying the lower rate, it's an incentive to them to produce more. Remember, they want to encourage the establishment of new businesses. So if you are not making more money, obviously you'll be paying less or no tax at all. Individual tax start from 18% and increase slightly as determined by the SARS, the South Africa Revenue Services, on annual tax review. So this one, it will depend. We are using progressive income tax. It will depend how much you are getting. Then the more you get paid is the more you pay. And we have bracket creeping. The more your income increases, the bracket also increase, meaning you pay more tax. The effect of tax bracket creeping on personal income tax has been attended to in almost every budget with adjustment to income tax bracket. So every time when our Minister of Finance, February, is about to talk about the budget speech, people who are working, they are always looking at this. Will the personal income tax increase or not? And also, if the income are going to increase, now there is bracket creeping. The bracket creeping meaning the more you get paid is the more your bracket, also your tax bracket increase, meaning you are paying more tax. The level of taxation in South Africa are reasonable compared to other developed countries. Remember, we are a developing country. So chances are our taxes are reasonable because most people are not high earners. They're getting paid low, then they will pay low taxation. As a developing country, lower tax rate will be helpful. So lower tax rate, like we said, a tax will be incentive is being reduced. So when they reduce taxation, it's an incentive. So lower tax rate will be helpful to promote economic growth and development. Grade 12, when tax is being reduced. Let's look at direct taxes. When the direct taxes are reduced, your personal income tax is reduced. It means that you are having more disposable income. Having more disposable income, it means you are going to spend more. Aggregate demand will increase. So with aggregate demand increasing, that will trigger more supply. Production will increase, then the economy will grow. Same with businesses. If the corporate taxes is decreasing, then it encourages what? Producer to produce more, because now they're having more money left to produce more. So then production will increase, and then what will happen? Economy will also grow. Also with indirect taxes, your VAT. You paying 15% for VAT and paying 14% is not the same. If you have to pay 15% of 10 rand and 14% of 10 rand is not the same. So just imagine the whole basket of goods and services. Then this 1% increase in all of them from 14 to 15, for example, it becomes what? A disincentive. It reduces consumption. Then the economy may not grow. But then if it is being reduced, it means that it will encourage more consumption and the economy will grow. We have capital formation under business efficiency. So capital can be capital. We can talk about machines. We can talk about money used. Right. So depreciation of capital goods used by business is designed to encourage investment. So remember, whatever machines that we're using, they may lose value over time. And when they lose value over time, it means that more machines must be bought. The government, through the DTI and IDC, also promote capital and loans. So to get these capital goods that are depreciating almost yearly until to scrap value. So the capital, our machines will be depreciating throughout, and then they can get to the scrap value where we can't use them anymore. Then you find that the Department of Trade and Industry will promote what? Capital through loans to small business and bigger businesses. So they'll be given loans in order to buy these machines that will increase what? Their production. So it results in business efficiency. This serves as an incentive to promote business efficiency. When they're given those loans, it serves as an incentive to promote business efficiency. You have human resources, right? So we're talking about the people working in the business. So if you are having more skilled people, it means they are more productive. Them being more productive, it means that now you are going to do what? Produce more goods and service. Education receive proportional a bigger slice. So from the budget, this is the cake that we have. It's our budget. So the bigger slice will be going toward education, healthcare, and then there's other things, social grants and whatsoever. So the bigger slice of our budget is education. Why? Education is a merit good. And the more people are skilled, are productive, they become what? They become economic participants that increase economic growth, meaning they are part of the people who will increase our economic growth. The money will be multiplying, they'll be having more income, right? So the sector education and training authorities set ahead facilitate post-school and work-related training. So the sector, it facilitates post-school and work-related training, meaning they are training the human resources so that they are more skilled and they are able to work. The Labor Relations Act came into operation in 1998 to promote economic development, social justice, and peaceful labor relations in the promotion of efficiency. So the labor relation also was there, that it was designed in a way that they promote economic development to ensure that there is a social justice and peaceful labor relationship. This will increase what? Business efficiency. It will ensure that there is more production. Next one, you have your free advisory services. So the government can provide free advisory services to business, making research on their behalf so that they are able to do what? To produce what is really needed. Like mentioned that research, to research your market, it may be expensive. It's an expense, it's a cost for what? For businesses. So if they are given free advisory services, it means that they are able now to produce what is needed. So these services that promote export, for example, research. If you're going to sell product, for example, you're going to sell your product in Tanzania, they don't want plastic there. Then if the government does the research for you, then you are going to package in paper bag. Then you'll be having more demand from that side. Agricultural services, statistical information. So the stats information that is given. So all these advices are given to businesses to produce. So the stats SA will be having all the indicators there. Then the business can use that. Weather services, for example. We get weather services. Agricultural businesses will be able, tourism industry will be able to know by looking at the forecasting, the weather forecasting, what is happening and where their business is heading. So those are free advisory from the government that improve what? Business efficiency. This will act as an incentive for local businesses. Third one, grade 12, is the cost of doing business. So this is the last one. Remember, we have three ways to promote economic growth and development on the supply side approach. We have the efficiency and effectiveness of markets. You have the business efficiency. The third one is the cost of doing business. This can come as an 8-mark question where they say to you, discuss the effectiveness and efficiency of markets. Then you know. You have your triple BEE there. You have your Employment Equity Act. You can talk about competition, deregulation, or they say to you, discuss business efficiency. You know, you have your human resource, capital formation. Then it can be a nice 8-mark question. Then now you have the cost of doing business. How much it costs the business to produce. Just imagine this. Government is not providing any infrastructure. So for ShopRite to produce bread, they need to provide themselves road. They must provide for themselves energy. Electricity must be there. Communication lines must be there. How much will be the loaf of bread? Very expensive. But now, because the critical infrastructure is provided by the government, there's road, transportation, there's communication line. For communication, so what you need to do is to buy your data, to pay for petrol, to pay for other things that has to do with transportation, energy, this electricity. So you don't have to create your own energy for your business. So you only have to pay the bill for electricity, for example. Then when you produce bread, the price of bread becomes reasonable. So the cost of doing business is beyond what you see. there is infrastructure. So government will come in order to increase supply by providing what? The critical infrastructure needed. In South Africa, government control most physical infrastructure components. The availability, reliability, and cost of infrastructure services play important role in financial viability and profitability of the business. So if this available infrastructure is reliable, then it will play a big role in what? In ensuring that businesses are more viable and they are making profit. So we need what? Infrastructure, the critical infrastructure, the three that I mentioned: energy, communication, and transport infrastructure. They must be provided. So government is more in control of that. The transport cost, transport options in form of air, road, rail, and sea transport. Government controls air and rail transport in South Africa. Substantially promotion of cargo and passenger transport is moved by road. Only reliable rail services that is cheaper than road transport will turn this around. So if we are getting more cheaper, our rail services is a bit of a problem for consumers. So if we can get a reliable one, then it will be cheaper for what than the road transport cost. Government has committed to improving the efficiency and reliability of its rail transport services and to make it more affordable. Then that will be cheaper for, remember, consumers have an option to use all this type of what? Transportation, but then the government is trying to do what? To ensure that the rail services it becomes more efficient, and then it will be the cheaper option for consumer. It is the cheaper option for consumers. However, because it's not really, you cannot trust that the operation are well, and most consumers has lost confidence in that. So that's why they are using the road transport mostly. Communication cost. So we're talking about your communication lines to have signal, right? So communication option are cable, signal, and mail. Government control cable, the land and fixed and mail communication services. This is your telephone. Cable communication in South Africa is the most expensive in the world, but reasonable, efficient. So with cable communication being expensive, it creates what? It creates a situation where business are producing now at a higher cost of production. So for us to produce at a low cost of production, the cable communication must be less cheaper than it is right now. The higher cost makes IT services for business and individual expensive. So it makes business what the IT services for business and individual expensive, and then it can reduce competition. It can reduce competition. For us to be competitive when it comes to the global market, then it inhibits global competitiveness, meaning it reduces the global competitiveness. We cannot compete with more developed economies that are paying less for their communication. Then it means their cost of production is less. They are going to sell at a cheaper price. We are producing at a higher cost of production. Then we'll be selling at a high price. Energy cost. So we're talking about the energy, which is your electricity, for example, energy cost. There are two main forms of energy in South Africa: electricity and liquid fuels. Eskom is a monopoly electricity supplier, meaning they are the only producer producing them. In recent years, rates escalated, and at times it has been unable to meet the demand for electricity, and this undermines the efficiency in the economy. So Eskom being the only one that is doing what? Is providing with electricity, it has not been able, that's why we are having your load shedding, it has not been able to meet the demand for electricity, and then it undermines the economy, the efficiency in the economy. So with load shedding, businesses are not able to produce as they want to, meaning they cannot meet the objectives. So they'll be producing less, and then supply also will decrease because now it requires them to have what? Substitute to energy. And that will be a cost to a business as well, meaning they have to spend more, right, in their production. Government has announced that they'll be investing more in new electricity capacity. Government also regulates petrol and paraffin prices. And the more the petrol prices increases, then the price of goods and services also increase. Reason being that this transportation is very important. So the people that are working, for example, for a certain company, if petrol increase, they are also going to bargain for more increase. To say the transportation cost to come to the workplace is expensive, so we are bargaining for more wage. When they bargain for more wage, then the producers are having high cost of production, then they charge high prices as well. Prices of imported crude oil are linked to high international market. So we are importing our crude oil from the Saudi Arabia, and then if the prices of this crude oil is expensive, then it will increase the local prices. The price of imported crude oil are linked to the high international market prices. And sometimes our exchange rate our currency value is lower or is depreciating, and we are forced to buy from abroad with them having a higher exchange rate. Then it becomes more expensive for us. That may increase the cost of doing business. High liquid energy prices undermine the efficiency of the market. So we end up not having efficiency in the market due to this high energy cost. Right, let's look at the factors of production. When you are doing business, you need all the factors of production. Right, that is the cost of doing business. Look at your ways of calculating GDP. Income method. We remunerate all the factors of production. Your compensation to employee, net operating surplus, capital consumption, meaning all the factors of production are being remunerated, right? So that is the cost of doing business. After that, after calculating all the cost of doing business, what you have a factor cost. After remunerating all the factors of production, you have a factor cost. Let's look at human resource. Apply migration policies to retain highly skilled workers and cap inflow of less skilled workers. So the government can ensure that there's no brain drain. Our highly skilled workers are retained in the country. Your doctors are being retained in the country so that there's no brain drain, right? So our highly skilled workers are remaining, and they decrease inflow of less skilled workers, because the more there's more less skilled workers coming to the country, it increases unemployment rate, and then it increases also government's burden in providing for those less skilled workers. Promote quality education and training to increase labor productivity. So government will be promoted through your SETAs, your GIPSA. They'll be They'll be promoting quality education and training through our National Skills Development Act. They will be doing it. They use different acts to ensure that they promote education and training. The more you are skilled, the more you are productive, meaning you are able to produce more given less resources. Reduce the power of unions in order to encourage greater flexibility in wage and labor practice. Your labor unions can influence the human resource when they are powerful. They will act as a special interest group, meaning they will be having demands, more especially bargaining for more wages, and then that will decrease the flexibility when it comes to labor practices. So the government can ensure that it reduces the power of the union. They can do that by doing what, for example, saying, okay, you negotiate for 3% increase on wage, then that 3% is for the next 3 years. So they are doing that. They are reducing their power to bargain every year. So they agree on a certain time to say, okay, the increment is fine, it's 5%, but then for 5 years. Every year it will be an increment of 5%. Until then, it means that the union don't have power to bargain for more. Natural resources is a factor of production. These are things that are provided by the nature, water, land, minerals. The supply natural resources is limited. The supply of natural resources is limited and must be used in a way that is not wasted. So our natural resources are not unlimited; they are limited. So they must be protected. Our environment must be protected. We must conserve and preserve our natural resources. Investment in research and technology to increase productivity of natural resources. So the government can invest in research and technology. There are new technologies that they are using, for example, to ensure that the environment is being protected, and for some species that we may lose for good, and then they are using those technological things to ensure that we do not lose those certain species. However, that will be discussed further when we are doing environment as a unit. Capital formation. So capital, we've touched capital formation under business efficiency, where we spoke about capital can be machines, can be money needed by the business. For efficient production to occur, both human and social and physical capital are needed. We need money capital, which is your rent and cents, to buy machines and tools. You need a real capital to buy, those are your machines, buildings, etc. You need a social capital, which is knowledge. Capital is needed for the production of goods and services. The more capital we have, the more goods we can produce. So the more money we have, the more machines we have, the more skilled workers we have, is the more we are able to do what? To produce more goods and services. Entrepreneurship. So businesses are needed to do what? To combine all the factors of production. So businesses are important for what? For development. They combine capital, labor, natural resources to produce goods and services to satisfy the needs of the people. The entrepreneur must be supported by good and ongoing education training. So they need to be supported by training and ongoing and good training to ensure that they are able to do what? To stay in the market and produce those goods and services. Remember, they are the ones that can do what? Combine other factors of production, your capital, labor, and natural resource. Then technology. Technology is now known as the fifth factor of production. Remember, the four factors of production that you know, it's your labor, the entrepreneur, land, and capital. Now, technology can be seen as what? A fifth factor of production, because it influences also the cost of doing business, and it also influences the supply of goods and services. This is the new scientific knowledge in form of new invention and innovations. Sometimes it's referred to as the fifth factor of production. Sustained economic growth requires technological process and innovation. So for us to have a more sustainable economic growth, we need technological progress and innovation. So we must use new machines that are able to produce more. Remember, the aim is to increase the aggregate supply. Technology advances mean new kinds of capital goods and new production processes. Technological advances can lead to economic growth. So if we are having more innovation when it comes to technology, it means there's new kinds of capital goods and new production, and then that may lead us to economic growth. Right, so let's look at the shift that we have when supply increases. Right, so when supply increases, so grade 12, here you have the demand, not supply, it's a demand curve. Then right, so this graph here shows what? It shows a situation where aggregate supply is increased through all those things that we spoke about. cost of doing business, business efficiency, and effectiveness of markets. If those things take place, then aggregate supply will shift to the right, meaning there's an increase in aggregate supply. Then when there's an increase in aggregate supply, prices will drop if the demand remained the same. However, if we started with the demand, then the prices may be somewhere here when the demand also shift. But then for now, let's just look at supply increasing. So when the supply is increasing like this, the quantity supplied increase from Q to Q1, the prices drop from P to P1. So that's why it is important to increase aggregate supply. When there's more supply, prices will be low. There will be more competition. Consumers will enjoy more variety of goods. There's more choices and the prices are low. Right, this is the explanation of the graph. The supply side approach stimulates aggregate supply and shift aggregate supply to aggregate supply 1. The quantity supplied increases to Q1 while the prices decreases to P1. The demand curve remained unchanged at D in the short term. If aggregate supply increases to AS1, prices will decrease, causing more affordability since supply increased faster than the demand. This will only occur if the mixture of both demand and supply is not implemented. On that graph, it's only supply that is increasing. So there's not mixture of what? Both demand and supply. It's only supply increasing. Right, let's look at questions that we may find. So this is giving one term. It's terminology, your 1.3 question. Return of land to those who have lost it due to discriminatory laws of the past. Land restitution. The process that focus on improvement of people's standard of living. That's its economic development. Remember, economic development, it focuses in the standard of living improving. Tax levied on gains and on sale of capital goods such as properties and shares. We're speaking of wealth taxes. Increase in the capacity of country to produce goods and services. Increase in the capacity of the countries to produce more goods and services. That is your economic growth. A plan to bring disadvantaged group to participate in the mainstream of economic activity. We use your broad-based Black economic empowerment. Duties paid to an estate of a deceased. Estate duties. A labor-intensive government program to create employment. That is your EPWP, expanded public works program. Right, so these are this example of section B question. Name any two supply side approach measures that are used to stimulate economic growth and development. We have efficiency and effectiveness of market and the cost of doing business. We also have business efficiency. How can the cost of doing business influence the supply of goods and services? How can the cost of doing business influence the supply of goods and services? If they're asking you if the cost of doing business is high or low. So in this question, this can be a nice 8-mark question because the question is not too direct. So you can talk about if the cost of doing business is increasing, then the supply will be less. If the cost of doing business is decreasing, then the supply will be more. Right. High input or production cost will lead to fewer goods to be produced by businesses. Right. Grade 12, thank you very much. Our lesson will end here today. So what we've done today, we did the supply side approach in promoting economic growth and development. We looked at the effectiveness and efficiency of markets. Under effectiveness and efficiency of markets, we did your BBBEE, your Employment Equity Act. We looked at competition and deregulation. Increasing of competition and also deregulation, meaning we are removing laws and regulations that restrict businesses from entering the market. Then we looked at the business efficiency, how to encourage businesses to be more efficient. And then we mentioned that some measures act as an incentives to the business. For example, a reduction in taxation can be an incentive to business to produce more. Capital formation, when business are given loans to produce, that can act as an incentive. And then the last one that we did was the cost of doing business, where we looked at government providing critical infrastructure, energy, communication, and transport costs were taken into consideration to ensure that businesses are operating well. And then other factors of production, including your technology, there was labor, entrepreneur, your capital, and land were taken into consideration to see how much are business spending in production. And then the more they are producing this mass production, businesses are going to produce at a lower price. And if the government is providing with infrastructural services, good infrastructure, then the production cost will be less, increasing aggregate supply. Thank you, grade 12, for joining the class. We'll see you next time when we discuss growth and development policies that are used by the government.